Welcome to Europe, Poverty to Prosperity, Week 1, Part 1. My name is Dr. Paul Tenkati. Note on photo sources, not only in this PowerPoint, but in all of my PowerPoints, they're either copyright-free Google.com images or clip art unless otherwise marked. A disclaimer. Online classes, because of their very nature, are demanding. They require a great deal of self-discipline and self-motivation. In addition, this is an accelerated 8-week course, so we will be covering in 8 weeks what we would normally cover in a 16-week course. So we're literally going twice as fast. So if you feel like you are a disciplined and motivated, especially self-motivated person, then this course is for you. If somehow you feel that you are not, then I would suggest that you consider, whether you'll be able to handle the course, and if not, to go ahead and withdraw early enough so you can still get a complete refund. Now, because we are not meeting in a face-to-face format, that means that we need to leave the lines of communication open in other ways. Now, you should know that I absolutely love teaching. In fact, I've won a number of teaching awards, both at the prior institution, Thomas More College, where I've taught, as well as through the Greater Cincinnati Consortium of Colleges and Universities, which was a regional teaching award. So I love teaching, and I'm always here to help you if you have any questions or concerns. I'm very easy to reach, especially by email. I check my emails obsessively. I say every day there, but it's many times per day. Or feel free to call my cell phone at 859-240-2143. And if I'm not available, please leave a message. I usually respond in either case within hours. Please note that I do not use text messaging. It is not a part of my cell phone contract. The most important thing to do with this class is to go to the Blackboard site. And on the left-hand side, you'll find some links, and one of those is called Syllabus. So please download and print the syllabus. Look that over. We'll be going over many of the points in this particular PowerPoint, but it's always good for you to cover those things which we're not going to be detailing in this PowerPoint. This class is similar to all of my other classes. It has a total of, as we'll see, 800 points, but actually 820 points. Icebreaker is worth 20 points, 5 critiques at 100 points each for a total of 500 points, 2 tests at 125 points each for a total of 250 points, and a final reflective paper of 50 points. All of these are described further in the syllabus for you. And also in the Blackboard, under weekly assignments, you'll see week 1, week 2, etc. Each one of those is a separate file, and then everything is outlined for you very conveniently on a weekly basis. Now, I include, as I say, my famous self-service extra credit. And what that means is that actually the class is worth 800 points, but I've thrown in 20 points of extra credit. It's built-in extra credit. So now the thing about that is Blackboard's grade book doesn't really comprehend this, and I've talked to numerous people in IT, and they don't know how to make Blackboard comprehend this. So if for some reason, through the class, you're looking at your grade book and somehow Blackboard is saying you're running an A- and you think you're running an A, it might just be that, Blackboard thinks that the class is worth a total of 820 points, when in fact it's only worth a total of 800 points. So what you want to do is then consult this little chart here, or get a hold of me and I'll, answer the question for you. But it could be something as simple as that. So we're going to have a number of critiques, 5 of them in total. So it's very important for us to discuss what critique essays are. And what we're going to do in this class is we're going to try to navigate the two-way street of history. And it's a two-way street because here we are in the present day looking back on the past. And then the past, so we're bringing with us our own kind of preconceptions and biases, etc., that are really present-day oriented. And sometimes we have to put that aside so that the past can teach something to us of at least the past, and maybe it can even be relevant in the future, and so in the present and future. So that is kind of the two-way street of history. And this means that we'll need to use and sharpen our critical thinking skills. Now, critical thinking simply means that we will utilize our human reasoning skills to arrive at well-researched and analytical conclusions. Good critiques in this class have three components. An introduction, which contains a complete paragraph with a clear thesis. That is, what is the topic of your paper and what are you trying to prove in that topic? It generally answers things like the who, what, where, when questions. Then a body of your paper, which is multiple paragraphs containing detailed information supporting your thesis, including plenty of specific examples cited correctly. And each paragraph, of course, should have a clear and concise topic sentence. And then a concluding paragraph that restates your thesis and points to the significance of your work and how you successfully argued your points. For critiques in this class, please do not use vulgar language or cliches, and do not use general encyclopedias or websites. Specialized encyclopedias such as the World History Encyclopedia, the Encyclopedia of Asian History, etc. are okay. Critiques. Acceptable sources for assignments in this class include scholarly books, scholarly journals, including the American Historical Review, which, although it sounds like it's about American history, is about actually all of history, world history. It's just called this because it's the journal of the American Historical Association. Specialized encyclopedias, but not general encyclopedias like Britannica, Wikipedia, or Encarta. Government documents and government websites, those can be very useful, especially as we look at the more modern day and of Europe in prosperity and poverty. Not .com, .edu, .net websites, but respectable magazines, newspapers, radio networks, and their websites. For instance, the BBC, British Broadcasting Company. Now, some of you have used footnotes or endnotes in your papers before. Footnotes are so called because they appear at the bottom or foot of a page. Endnotes are called such because they appear at the end of the paper. For this class, we'll be using in-text notes. So if you've never used those, let me show you what an in-text note looks like. This is an example, and I've taken this and paraphrased the data contained within. And since I've paraphrased the data, we need to footnote it. And that's because, you know, the normal person doesn't walk around just being an encyclopedia of knowledge, of esoteric and kind of sometimes knowledge like this. So we need to tell me, you need to tell me and any of your other readers where you got this information. And so it lists the last name of the author, the year of publication, then you put a comma, the page number, and put it in parentheses, and then, of course, a period at the end of the sentence. This is a shortened in-text note, and that's what I would like you to use in your critiques for these 8 weeks. Now, in addition to that, because, you know, this just tells me a last name, it doesn't tell me, you know, all that other information like the first name of the author and the publisher and where it was published and what edition, etc. In addition to your in-text notes, you need to have a bibliography for each and every critique. And that's put at the end of the paper, and you must use Chicago, otherwise called sometimes the Turabian style. And that is really the style that we generally use in history. Now, a free program is available to assist you with correctly formatting your bibliographic references. It's called the citationmachine.net. So we're going to go there right now and see how quick and easy this is to use. Now, the first thing it's going to ask you in the citation machine is what do you want to use? The Chicago style, the Turabian style. You know, they're kind of the same thing, so we're just going to hit Turabian here. And one of the neat things is you may already know the author of the book or the title of the book. And if you do that, this citation machine is actually connected to WorldCat. And WorldCat is the World Catalog. So thousands of libraries worldwide with millions and millions of books and recordings and all kinds of archival and other resources use WorldCat as their kind of catalog. So let's just play with this and let's put in yours truly, your kindly professor, Dr. Tenkate, and hit search books. Well, it's actually come up with a number of books that I've written, and we're going to take this one, the Encyclopedia of Northern Kentucky, and we're going to select it. Say, for instance, that was the book that you used for your critique, and that's obviously not going to happen since this is a class on Europe, but we're just using this to show you how to use the citation machine. Well, look, it is already filled in for you my first name, middle initial, last name, the book title, where the book was published, who the publisher was, the year, etc. If you wanted to make any changes to any of this, you could, like if you wanted to add in a state or whatever. Let's try to do that, Kentucky, KY. And then we hit Make Citation. And look, it has made the citation. It says Tenkate Paul A., the Encyclopedia of Northern Kentucky. It is even italicized that. Lexington, Kentucky, University Press of Kentucky, 2009. And that's all you would have to do is hit copy and paste citation, and you could put that right into your paper. It's as easy as that. Now let's say you can't find this particular thing in WorldCat, but you've got a journal and you used a journal article from the NKU Steele Library Digital Archives. Then you would just hit Journal, and down here you would hit Journal again, and it would take you to this same kind of site, and there you could put the first name, the last name, the article title, the journal title, the volume number, the issue number, page numbers, etc. You could fill all of that in, and then you could go ahead and hit your Make Citation and then copy and paste and put it directly in your paper, your critique for the week. So let's continue on then. So each critique, you need an introduction, a body, conclusion, you need in-text notes, and you need a bibliography. This is the exact rubric which will be used to grade your Europe Poverty to Prosperity critique essays. And let's go over this just a little bit. Each week you're going to have readings, assigned readings. Some will be from textbooks and some will be provided by me in PDFs on the Europe Poverty to Prosperity Blackboard, we'll call it from now on BB website. Critique. I want you to compare and contrast the assigned readings and relate those to the time period under discussion that week. That's worth 15 points. 30 points, and this is really important obviously because it's worth 30 points, is to investigate other sources. That is, in addition to the assigned readings here, to find a source, at least one scholarly source, outside source, that you find that I did not assign, and that should not be Wikipedia and Carta Britannica, not edu.com, etc. websites. And we're going to show you how to find those sources very easily in this PowerPoint. And then, of course, what we just discussed, you have to have at least one footnote, that is in-text note, and a bibliography, both correctly cited. Then in 15 points over here, I want you to do what all of us as not only historians, but professionals, whether you're in communications or social work or psychology or one of the sciences, you want to tease apart the arguments being made in your assigned readings and in the outside scholarly source that you found. And you want to use impartiality, that is objectivity. You may have a personal opinion about something, but this is not a personal opinion paper. This is a critique essay. So basically, please do not insert your personal opinions. Rather, you're going to be as objective as possible. And sometimes when you read both your assigned readings for the class and the outside scholarly sources that you find on their own, you're going to formulate your own questions about an issue. And that's good too, and you can include that, and you can say, well, this particular author, he or she does not seem to address this issue or brought up an issue which brings up another question in my mind, and you can talk about perhaps what an author or the author has left out or maybe glossed over, and there could be a good reason why they've done that. And then the essay should be edited, not sloppy. It should be at least 900 words, have a theme or themes. So, and it needs to be in a Word or Word compatible file. It needs to have a theme or a theme. So, let's say that you take on something like the Great Depression of the Second Great Depression, really, which is the one that starts in 1929 in the United States and goes worldwide. And let's say you want to look at that depression and how it affected Germany, for instance, or did it affect Germany? How it affected Great Britain, let's say Great Britain. And if you're going to do that, you probably are going to need, well, not probably, you need to choose a theme. So what are you going to say about that depression? What are you trying to prove? What are you trying to argue? What are you trying to debate about the Great Depression in, say, the United Kingdom, that is Great Britain? Your essays, again, an introduction, body, conclusion, and it should be professionally written, proper grammar, spelling, punctuation, etc. Now, critique essays are usually due on Sundays by 11:59 p.m., 1 minute before midnight. That's kind of how the BB site sets it up, or specifically noted in the assignment section of the syllabus and also in the weekly lessons folders of the class Blackboard site. Critique essays must be submitted via the links provided in the weekly lessons of the class Blackboard site in a Word or rich text format RTF file. You are always welcome to work ahead and to submit your weekly critique essays in advance of their due date. Also, please note the instructor generally accepts and does not deduct points for late assignments. The due dates are meant in this class as kind of soft deadlines. They're there to help and guide you in a structured manner to enable completion of this 8-week course. But as a professor, I know, because I was a student one time, and things happen, right, in your life. And you might get sick, or you might have a loved one, a parent, or a child who you care for who gets sick. There could be a giant work deadline. You could be out of town on work. So I understand. So please understand that these deadlines are soft deadlines. Ultimately, you are responsible for getting the material in, and the deadlines are meant to help guide you through that process so that you don't, get too far behind, because remember, again, it is an 8-week class. Now, if you want further critique guidance, you can see the model critique, which is listed on the class Blackboard site as its own special link. You can, of course, review this Week 1 Part 1 lecture, or you could feel free to email me and to call me on my phone, and I will certainly try to clarify any issues that you might be having. Now, we're always required to talk about plagiarism and what constitutes a plagiarism. The professor will be checking every essay for plagiarism. In fact, there's a Safe Assign tool that Blackboard in NKU uses to check each and every assignment. If you commit plagiarism, you would receive an automatic 0 for the assignment. Plagiarism includes quoting or using wording from a book, journal, article, internet, or other source verbatim. That is, word for word, without putting the quote in quotation marks and citing it in a footnote. It includes paraphrasing another person's unique ideas, thesis, themes, research, published or unpublished, without giving them credit in a footnote. And of course, we're using footnote, endnote, and in-text notes all interchangeably. Using another person's tables, graphs, photographs, artworks, or illustrations without giving them credit. Using all or part of another student's paper, even if that student approves. Using a paper or presentation from a free essay or presentation website source, or buying a paper or presentation from an essay or presentation website or service. Now, as we showed you before, if you would take something, and I'm going to show you how to avoid plagiarism by giving you some examples. Now, word-for-word quotes must be put in quotation marks and footnoted. So you see here that I've taken the first few lines and I've quoted them verbatim. That is word for word. So they need to go in quotation marks, and then this ellipsis ... means that there's more to this sentence, but I simply haven't put it there. And you might find that useful in your own quoting at some time. And then notice how I've put in an in-text note. If you would decide that you want to quote this entire paragraph, which is really long, then you would need to use a block quotation. And a block quotation means that you take and you begin the quote on a new line, you single space the long quote, so quotation marks are not needed, you indent the entire quote, each line of it about a ½ inch on the left, and you include a note, or that is an in-text note. So here's an example of a block quotation. And the reason why that you would need to put this in a block quotations is it's more than, about 4 or 5 lines long. And someone somewhere along the line, devised that this is the way you handle really long quotations. And so this is what you need to follow. Now, even if you paraphrase information, and particularly this rather esoteric information about the increases in Asia's population over a 150-year period, you would need, even though you've not done that verbatim, but you've paraphrased it in your own words, you would need an in-text note. And that's because, we don't go running around knowing this information off the bat. And this is the point in my PowerPoint for every class when I do this, that I refer to Sheldon on the Big Bang Theory. And you might say, well, Sheldon, the Big Bang Theory could do this. And my response to that always is, I've been teaching for about 30 years, and I have never, ever met a single student, a colleague, a faculty member, that is a professor, who had an eidetic memory, a photographic memory. Some people claim that some scientists that there is no such thing as an eidetic memory. There are others that say, obviously, yes, there is. There are people, some of them are idiot savants, who can, count the number of toothpicks as seen in Raymond, or who can do all kinds of mathematical, formulas in their heads, could even, memorize, a telephone book. But, many of those same people, would have trouble tying their shoes, getting themselves up in the morning, and getting themselves to class. So I've never met any of those either. So we need to go ahead and footnote anything that includes, data and specialized information that would not be ordinarily known. Now, you don't have to get fanatical or obsessive-compulsive about this. Generally known or widely disseminated information you would not need to footnote. The examples would include Christopher Columbus sailed to America in 1492. You could find this in thousands of books. Mother Teresa was known as a great humanitarian. President Kennedy was assassinated in November 1963. The United States entered World War II after the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor. These are all well-known, widely disseminated information that you would not need to worry about footnoting. If, however, you were going to take someone's graph, table, artwork, illustration, photograph, and include it in your critique or any time in a presentation, you would need to cite the source. Otherwise, it would be plagiarism. Now, as we've kind of already said, but it's worth repeating, for this class we're going to avoid internet websites except for .gov. We're going to avoid Wikipedia and general encyclopedias, and instead we're going to rely upon standard scholarly sources, including the many digital resources of NKU's Steely Library. Literally thousands of possibilities, and I'm going to show you how. Generally with NKU Steely Library databases, and this changes every so often because, they keep changing the website, but, generally it's going to look something like this. You're going to put in your username and your password. And usually you're going to go to a drop-down menu and the upper right-hand corner, and you'll be able to pick out something like Library Steely. And then you'll get all kinds of possibilities normally on the left-hand side. Again, it could change depending upon how they change the website. And there could be wonderful things like research guides. And we have all kinds of research guides, so let's go ahead and click the research guides. And you'll find things for world history where you're going to find a lot of the things for Europe. But you're also going to note here they have an economics research guide that might be very useful, etc. And so let's just go here, and we can find that under the Reference Items tab, you're going to find ebooks. In fact, lots of different ebooks. That is, electronic books. And you might say to me, well, Dr. Tenkate, I really don't have time to read a book. I only have time to read an article. Well, my response to that was, yes, nobody's asking you to read an entire book, but maybe you would find an ebook that interests you, and maybe you would just want to read one chapter, and that would be kind of equivalent to one journal article. So there are all kinds of humanities ebooks, and there's nearly a half a dozen ways to find what you need. So if we went back to that main page, you can see databases and journals A to Z. Let's try journals A to Z. And one of the very useful journals for history and for the humanities is not journals. One of the sites that catalogs journals, is called JSTOR, which stands for Journal Store. So let's use that. And we're going to try a JSTOR search for the Habsburg Dynasty, which was a European dynasty that ruled over the Holy Roman Empire, what we now call kind of Germany, Austria, Hungary, etc., for centuries in Europe. Now, if I just type in Habsburg Dynasty, I can do all kinds of interesting things. I can put that I just want content that I can access. I can limit the years of publication. If I want to get more recent works, I can tell them that I don't want primary sources, that I only want research articles. I can list the subject, like history. Then I can click search. And in this case, I found over 2,200 items. And the neat thing is that if you click on an item, a short abstract appears on the right-hand side. And if you click, and that'll tell you whether it's like a book review or an article. You're probably not going to be interested in book reviews. You're looking for articles. And if you see PDF, that means that it's available as a downloadable PDF file as long as you've logged in with your username and password. And then when you go to things like JSTOR, most of these database sites that have these journal articles available, very oftentimes the first page will give you what you need for your bibliographic citation. So this actually has the title of the article, the author, the source, Mediterranean Studies, the volume number, the page numbers, it has the year, etc. And you can copy and paste all of that and put it into your citation machine, your citation maker, and then you have your bibliographic citation finished. Now you could also go under the Databases tab rather than the Journals tab. And you're going to find there a treasure trove of digital full-text articles accessible through JSTOR, Academic Search Premier, and Project Muse. These are probably the three most important ones and useful ones for you in this class and in history in general, especially, with things like European history. So experiment with these yourselves in finding articles for your critique essays. Then, of course, you can go directly under the databases and go under the J databases and get to JSTOR that way. So there's more than one way to get to things. Now, let's say you are interested in a book and you actually want to go and get a book, an old-fashioned hardback book from the library. Well, maybe not necessarily for this class, but for other classes you take, I want to introduce you to a really cool thing. And we spoke of it just a little earlier on in this particular PowerPoint lecture, and it's called WorldCat. And WorldCat stands for World Catalog, and it is the cataloging system used by thousands of libraries for millions and millions of items worldwide. WorldCat is amazing. If you find a book somewhere else in the U.S. or in the world even, and you can complete the electronic form for that for NKU's Source Finder, and they'll try to get the book sent to NKU. It could take a few weeks, so with this 8-week class, probably not a good idea, but for your 16-week classes, or for your own particular research, if you're doing a thesis, a senior thesis, or you're going for a master's degree or something at some point, it might be a cool thing to try. And they'll also find articles for you that would not be downloadable. Let's try an example. Let's use yours truly, Encyclopedia of Northern Kentucky. I'm going to change the field here to title and then click search. The results are 3 different results over 119 libraries worldwide. Why some of these are cataloged differently is unknown by me, as it depends upon the cataloger at that place. So 4 of the 123 libraries catalog the book differently than the first listing of 119 libraries. Don't know why that is. You can also see that Northern Kentucky University owns the book, so this is a really cool site to use. And if you wanted to, you could go exactly to that citation there in WorldCat, and you'd see Source Finder Request, and that will take you to NKU's Interlibrary Loan Service, the Source Finder. The first time you use that, you would need to set up an account, but it's really easy. So that's to help you find sources for your 5 critique essays. And remember, we said that every critique, each and every critique, needs at least 1 in-text footnote and needs a bibliography. And we showed you how that you can do the in-text notes. We provided you with examples of that, and we showed you the citation machine to help you with your bibliographies. But now we need to look at what really a bibliography does. A bibliography generally indents the second line and thereafter, and it lists books by author's last name first. Their last name first. And notice it does so alphabetically. Now let's say you have 2 authors whose last name is Doe. Jane Doe would come before John Doe because J.A., Jane, comes before John. So, if it's the same last name, then we need to move to the first name to alphabetize. Now let's say we have 2 different sources from the same person, John Doe. Then we need to move to the next item, that is the title of the article or the title of the book. And notice here M becomes before T. So that's the way it's used. And you can see here too, if we don't have an author associated with something, well then you need to then put it alphabetically by the first available thing in your bibliographic citation. In this case, it is a title. And I show you a footnote here, although we said we don't really want you to use footnotes unless they're .gov, that is government footnotes. But that's just given there for your own help. Now again, you must use Chicago, also called Turabian style. A free program is available at citationmachine.net. Or if you prefer, you can manually format your bibliographic citations as shown in the following slides. And I show you how to do it with a book with multiple authors or multiple editions, a dissertation, an article from a scholarly journal, from a popular magazine, from a newspaper article, a website. Again, now here I show you a .gov website. And you always put after that when you access the website. And this is important because websites come and go. And a book review, even how to do that, and a manuscript. Interviews by you, and when in doubt, please feel free to contact me. A great reference is the Chicago Manual of Style, and sometimes even the Chicago Manual of Style won't have an example that fits your source 100%, so it's always important to be thorough and to be consistent. Thank you for your attention. This lecture for this week 1 is continued in part 2.